let me, on behalf of the legislature, and I would give the floor to our executive branch to also acknowledge your presence and welcome you to our state. My name is Nicholas Firlaron. It so happened that I'm a speaker of the Senate legislature. And on my left here is our vice speaker, Tedro Tun, and he's the most senior person in this 11th legislature. And on my right here is our chairman of Government Health and Welfare, who's some of this proposed bill would be, he's the one to make sure that our government is pushing and call them in for oversight hearing if they don't do what needs to be done. As soon as you guys pass it at the national government, I'm sure the state may come up with something to in line with the law that you put together. And on the other side, that's Senator Leon. He's the vice chairman of RED, Resources, Education, and Development. And we're very fortunate, this 11th legislature, to have our first female serving at this branch of our government. And she's the vice chairman of Finance Committee. So if there's anything involved in this thing, I hope all would be taken care of by the national government. And if the state needs something, please do recognize our meager resources and assist us, as you guys been doing so many times, and we're very fortunate of that. Her name is Annie Mary Lamar. She's serving as I said, as a vice chairman of Finance Committee, and our vice speaker is also a member of this committee. I will give the floor. Let me once again welcome you, Congressman Conman and the Secretary of TCNI, APIS, and we hope all our infrastructure is moving forward according to the time frame. With all due respect, we really need it. Thank you and your staff for assisting us, and I'm sure I hope we can also have another legal counsel to assist. Only one legal counsel that we have here at this, and 10 of us bombarding her to do this and that. But we try to find somebody to assist her, but it's very hard with the salary that we're put up. So we're still looking. So if you happen to know somebody, please do let us know, because we certainly in need. The person that just came in is Senator Jean Touré. Is also a member of RED committee. So thank you once again. Thank you all very much, and thank you for all the witnesses that we have here in this room. Our Director of Health Services, I know he's very busy. He has another meeting at the hospital going on at this time, but he wants to sit with us and learn more about this. It's been a big concern for all of us with all this technology that's going on. So let me give the floor to our acting governor, because governor is not on island. He's our director of OAS, Office of. So please introduce yourself and whoever that here with you, or you're the only man from the executive branch.
Yeah, I think you already introduced only other person from the executive branch, the director from the HS. I just want to apologize that our governor is not here today. He's off island on a business trip. And I would like to take this opportunity to express my respects to the distinguished gentleman, chairman of the Congress Committee on Judiciary and Government Operations, and the uh, Congresswoman Perpetua Conman uh, from the Committee on Health and Social Affairs, uh, and also the secretaries and assistant secretaries around the table. Maybe you guys can introduce yourselves after this. Thank you. And I just got briefed about 30 minutes ago on this hearing, so I'm not very keen on all the aspects of the bills that you're introducing, but I'm very pro cybersecurity as director of OAS. Thank you very much, and welcome to YAP.
Kumkarma acting governors, director, sirong guri speaker nga members ko legislature. Um, First of all, thank you all very much, especially the legislature, for accommodating our small delegation on such short notice. This group, and we're hoping that as we travel to the other states in the coming week, more members of the committee and other technical experts from TCNI, DOJ, and possibly R&D can join us as we try to cover all 4 states in the upcoming week. By Tuesday next week, we should all be done. The intent of this public hearing, and I understand it's been years since any congressional committee has come to the states, to all the states, bringing bills that will not only impact our FSM national government, but the people in the very states that we all volunteer to serve. These 4 bills, well, 5 in essence, as there's a new bill that I just recently introduced to hopefully accommodate one of the bills that were transmitted by the president. Um, and we have copies of the bills. We can circulate them. Anyway, these 5 bills has to do with the FSM digital project. That started out years ago with the FSM being connected to the fiber optic. Now we can see in all the states the effort to connect fiber optic to the home. And this is the legislative side, the policy side of the project that has taken several years. I think over 5 years in trying to push these policies through. It's been very difficult for the previous Congresses, mainly because these bills are very technical, and the what they encompass are also very broad in that it covers cyber crimes to creating certain offices at the national government to deal with the issue of cyber crimes, as well as electronic transactions, which would affect businesses, um, and the data protection. And there are certain entities in our own states and at the national government that collect personal data on our citizens. And that's why we thought these bills are very important to discuss, because some of these entities are not national entities. Who's going to regulate the kind of data, protect those data? Uh, Maybe not the national government, maybe the state. So there are policies that will be needed at the state, and those at the national. We need to somehow coordinate this effort going forward. And it's been a very long process. These bills were introduced again in this 24th Congress last May. It's only now that the committee has had the time to take it all to the states. The executive has been waiting for them for quite a while now, and I'll let the secretary discuss more on this. But that is the primary reason why we're taking these bills to the state, starting from the state of Yap. Later this week we'll be in Chuk, and then Kosrae, and then back to Ponape. We should be done by next week, Tuesday. Um, there are more members to the committee than you see here. It's not just Madam Chair Conman and myself. Unfortunately, due to flight schedule and other commitment, they were not able to join us, at least here in Yap for now. With us are the new legal counsel for the FSM Congress, Mr. Yancy Cottrell, and Catherine Ellen, who's also a staff attorney for the Committee on Health and Social Affairs. While here, Madam Chair has been able to meet, I understand, with different health folks at our state, particularly those that are impacted with U.S. federal grants and what other help the committee may be to these different agencies and um, offices at the state level that are receiving federal grants, and how her committee under health and education, health and social affairs, can help with their oversight power over the relevant departments. Again, thank you all very much, and for the short notice and for accommodating us in the People's House here. And much of the discussion on the bill may not be able to complete today because how extensive the bills is, but we thought that this is a good time to give the states the opportunity to look at the bill. If need, create a group to really digest the bills and make your recommendations to the committee, preferably by January if can, so that we can make our recommendations to other committees that may have been assigned the same bills and to Congress overall. Siro, and thank you all very much. If nothing else, maybe I'll turn the floor over to Secretary Apis to introduce his colleague, and then to Mr. Minoru Stephen from the Department of Justice Division of Cybersecurity to also introduce himself and a little of what their role is with regards to this project leading up to the bills before us.
Thank you very much, Chairman Chor. Let me begin by joining the previous speakers in extending our respects to the Speaker, Vice Speaker, and members of the legislature. Thank you for the opportunity for us to appear before you today. And my respects also to the acting governor and members of cabinet, YAP officials. And through the acting governor, I also extend my respects to the governor who is away on official trip. And since our hearing is live in the air, let me also take this opportunity to extend my respects to the chairman of the Council of Pilung and members of the council, chairman of the Council of Tamal, and the respective members, as well as the general public who have joined us online. And all those who have joined us here. My respects also to the members of Congress, Madam Chair Conman, and your senior staff. Both of you have joined us. I am Carl Lapis. I'm the Secretary of the Department of Transportation, Communications, and Infrastructure. I am joined here by my colleague here, Edward Albert, who is the Assistant Secretary for the Division of Communications. We will have time to go into more details as we discuss the bills, but just in general, I think Chairman Chor has summed it up very well. But I think what I can share is, as you all know, as we develop, you see more and more use of modern technology in our work. Every desk now has a computer, and everybody walks around with a cell phone. So just with those facts, I think we can all acknowledge that we are all our work is becoming more digitized, right? So there's a need for us to have legislation to protect our users, the people who use the technology, and to protect the technology. Right? As the chairman touched on with the digital project funded by the World Bank, we started with the infrastructure, which was all the submarine cables that connected our states. The last one remaining, which is the EMC connecting Kushai, will go live next month. So that will be completed. All 4 states will be connected by submarine cable. And then we are going out to the other islands to make sure every island is connected. Starlinks will be installed on every island. But I know the Department of Health and Education are also putting Starlinks up at the schools. As we speak now, we have people in the other islands. I know for a fact in the Morlocks, we have people taking college courses online without having to leave the island. I know in Pohnpei, the Department of Health is supervising services out in the other islands through the health assistance placed on the island. So, as you know, it takes the ships several days to get out there, but now they can start providing services in real time. So as we are improving our services, there's a need to have legislations to protect the information. And as part of the bills, it's also to recognize these services. And for example, in terms of digital signature and digital documents, oftentimes some offices don't accept them. They want the actually printed document and don't accept a digital document. So there's a need for the government to recognize digital documents. And part of this is also taking a step further to support e-commerce, the need for us to protect also financial transactions. So these are parts of the bills that are in front of you, the cybersecurity and cybercrime and all these. So I think we'll have time to go more into details, but and we have our two colleagues here, Eddie and Minoru, will introduce himself because oftentimes the issues can be very technical and the need for them to explain more. I've asked them to try their best to minimize their use of acronyms because oftentimes we don't know what these acronyms mean. So, Mr. Speaker and Vice, I'll start with that as an introduction and then we can go into more details. Thank you.
Good morning, Magatid. My humble respects to this sacred hall, to my Congressman Chor, Chairman, fellow delegates from the FSM national government. I would like to first off commend Secretary Apis and Assistant Secretary Albert for a good job in advancing the digitalization of FSM government. As Secretary alluded to, we must maintain cybersecurity along with digital advancement. So my job is to back up their efforts. Sorry. My name is Minoru Steven. I'm Assistant Secretary of Cybersecurity Division in the FSM DOJ. Thank you.
Thank you. I thought I was already introduced, but I'll introduce myself. First of all, my respects, Speaker, Vice Speaker, and all the delegates of this legislature. Also to Acting Governor and Chairman Chor and Chairman Conman as well, and everyone who was in the building at this time or also listening abroad. My name is Edward Albert, and I am the Assistant Secretary for the Division of Communications. Thank you.
I think with the formalities out of the way, if nothing else, maybe we can start discussing the bills. The first bill is Congressional Bill number 24-1414. This is the Cybersecurity Act of 2025. That first part may change because we don't have probably a session until January of next year. So it may be the Cybersecurity Act of 2026, hopefully. This bill, and again, I'll let the technical staff get into the details. But my understanding of the bill, the committee understand the bill is trying to create a nationwide legal and institutional framework to protect critical information infrastructure and to coordinate responses of cybersecurity threats and engage with other regional and maybe international partners. This is creating the framework at the national level. In this bill, it aims to create a team called the Computer Emergency Response Team. One of those many acronyms that Secretary was talking about, CERT. This team um, will be responsible, uh, will form this entity, and this will be a combination of the Department of Justice working in collaboration with the TCNI Division of Communication. And this law also aims to create a cybersecurity committee, which will involve not only national but also counterparts at the state stakeholders at the state level, as well as those at the international level. This is what basically the bill is. I'll let the TCNI, DOJ folks, and our attorneys um, get in more details and answer any questions you may have.
Chairman, may I? Thank you very much. I think before I go in, I just want to give a kind of a brief overview of the whole bills together. Just some points to help us, how do we think about it? So the intention behind this drafting all these four bills is, first of all, for us to understand that the intention is that these are all one package. That's the intention, is that they work together, they support one another. Also, at this time, the intention is also to focus on transactions that happen at the national government. We understand that digitization is happening all around in the country. But with the limited resources that we have at the moment, we thought we'd start with what we can chew on first before we do everything all at once. So that's one of the kind of the principles that we kind of think about when we're developing or working with our experts to draft these bills. And also looking at things that of a national government nature, such as interstate commerce, which is, from my understanding, under the Constitution, is under the national government jurisdiction. The other thing is with the understanding that this will be incremental, right? So as again, we're not trying to solve everything in the FSM all at the same time, but we're seeing what we can start with, and then as the nation develops and the capabilities develop, then we can these bills or these laws can evolve with us. We also, when drafting, consider the local culture and the traditions that exist within the whole nation. Also mindful of what is our level of our capability and our capacity, not just the technical people, not just the workers, but the citizens. What is our level of understanding of the digital world? And then also, I think this one is more geared toward the cybercrime one, because it's when people read it, they get worried. But the intention is not to punish people who unknowingly or accidentally access systems that they're not supposed to access, but it's really to punish people who intentionally commit the crime of accessing data or systems that they're not supposed to. So we understand that, and the question came up during our Congress hearing is what if somebody accidentally, unknowingly, if they didn't know that system is they're not supposed to access and yet they access, will they be punished? So the intention is not that, but for intentional unauthorized access. So that's just some of the things that I want to lay as a groundwork for how do we think about or how we thought about it when we were working with the experts to develop. And so the chairman had mentioned, or we're starting off with the cybersecurity bill. Now, when we think about cybersecurity, and the way it helps me to think about it is that word security. So there are two bills in here that kind of sound similar: cybersecurity and cybercrime. One with the word security, which means to build up security, to enhance protection. The other one that says cybercrime is the one that talks about the different crimes that are computer related, right? So cybersecurity is about building our capacity for how do we secure systems at the moment at the national government that are used to provide critical services to citizens. So as mentioned by not only chairman but also secretary, while the government is slowly moving towards digitizing the systems, we think about other sectors that are already moving way past beyond the speed of what the government is doing. For example, the banks that are operating in the FSM that are already doing online banking, but there are no laws yet in place to punish if there is any criminal acts against those systems. And so the idea is to put in some kind of a framework for how do we start working with all these important entities within the FSM to enhance their level of security. And so in this cybersecurity bill, it identifies two offices, mainly the Department of DOJ, Department of Justice, and Department of TCNI, to work together on how do we implement this bill. DOJ deals with the legal and policy aspect of things, while TCNI deals with the technical. That's where all the technical experts will sit, is under TCNI. DOJ will sit on the part that deals with the legal and policy side of things. And the idea is DOJ to develop what is a standard for what systems should be, right? So there should, and these are already developed international best practice standards that are already available out there, right? So the task is on DOJ to develop what that standard is, and then to ensure that these entities or these owners of critical in systems like the banks and the service providers and government agencies like the passport system and the finance system, for example, make sure that those systems are held to that standard. And it calls for DOJ to have a regular audit on those systems to ensure that those systems are at that level that we can be comfortable and people can trust that when I access the system to conduct the transaction, that I'm actually doing it in a safe environment. My data is being kept safe, my name, my date of birth, my banking information. If I were to pay for example, my passport online, that I'm not compromised while conducting. So that's, I think, a little bit that I can touch on. If my colleagues have anything else to add that I may have missed, but really that's the gist of the cybersecurity part of it, is really to ensure that as we build, that we build responsibly, right? We don't just build off of what we think, but that we build responsibly. And then there's another entity that checks our homework. We don't check our own homework, but somebody else comes in and checks that, okay, you've actually done what you're supposed to do. So that's what I can share a little bit, Chairman. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My humble respect to you all. I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. My name is Senator Perpetua Conman. I'm the Chair Lady of Health and Social Affairs. As we understand that the privacy of patients are very important, with their informations are confidential. So everything that we see in the hospital, every devices that we use are stored on those devices, like for ultrasound machines, for X-ray machine, and their data are already on those computers, and we need to protect them through this cybersecurity. And how long those devices should keep their data or their information for us to use in helping our healthcare services or healthcare deliveries to our patients or people in the communities. It will affect like the usage of the cybersecurity that we are talking about today. So with that, I do support the bills, but with much understanding, like how much should be on the computers or on the system, and where some of our files are, we're still using some of our files that we have to go back, because right now our computers are really not really updated, or we still have problems with them at the hospitals. When we need to retrieve the informations that we need for the last few months, we're still having a hard time in retrieving those informations on the computers. And we still have to go back and use the old files that we have, the yellow files in the record rooms. So we need to understand how far they can help us with their records and how far they can help us to protect, as we pledged to keep all those informations confidential. Thank you very much.
I thought it would be good that I share with you some of the concerns the committee had raised with the executive, both DOJ and TCNI, in our committee hearing on this bill last September. And as policymakers, protectors of the purse, the biggest question, of course, is the money. With our current capabilities at DOJ now, we know that they have a division of cybersecurity with about 4 or 7 employees. TCNI with their division of communication, and with this committee that this law is trying to create. How ready are we now to effectively implement and mandate this cybersecurity for the FSM, and what are the costs going forward? Part of the bill involves an appointment from the state. The bill itself now just talks about the governor making an appointment from time to time to be part of this shirt. How ready is the national government, TCNI and DOJ and this committee, if we pass this law, to effectively fund the state representatives to ensure that their contribution in the committee, in the shirt and the cybersecurity committee, are well represented. The state's interests are represented. And lastly, and we're still awaiting all those information from the different committees. Lastly, one of the concern the committee had over the bill was about the sovereignty of this nation, FSM. A lot of this enforcement that this committee on cybersecurity, we will have to depend on either a foreign government or a foreign corporation to assist us. And how much are we ready to protect our national sovereignty and the sensitive data of this nation? So those are some of the concerns that the committee had raised with the technical experts with regards to this particular bill. Um, if there are any questions from the state now, we can take it. But again, is for information, for discussion, and for thinking going forward how the state can really work with the relevant department, DOJ, TCNI, in ensuring the cybersecurity of, say, YAP State going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Andy. Tor, any question? Go ahead now. By the way, I'm sorry to introduce, that's John Mafal. He's chair of RED committee. Go ahead, Chairman.
Come on, Mr. Speaker, and apologies. As you can hear from my voice, I've been under the weather since, I don't know, I caught something in Ponte from you guys. But Kamwar, Chairman Tor, and Chairman Conman, and my respects to everybody. This is, to some extent, I'm really happy to see this one on the cybersecurity, because even last term, working with our legal person, we've been trying to do something on revenge porn. Somebody is blackmailing you or putting out information on you over websites or what have you, and how do we prosecute that and help our citizens who didn't give consent for their information going out. And we've seen a lot of cases of that around our community. Unfortunately, especially being a small community, something like that happens, you might as well pack your bags and leave, because it is hard to go back to a state of zero and start over. Now, there was a couple of interesting things that you guys raised that I wanted to touch on. What is the independent prosecutor's role in all of this? Because as you do this, create this Minaru, and you have this, that's a lot of power in your hands. And DOJ, we expect the best from our civil service or our civil servants. But what is the independent prosecutors? Is there a role for them in all of this as the last watchdog, watching the watchdogs? Right? And the other one, as we talk about the expertise we need for the technical help, because I see some of the guys who are here who were stuck with us in Guam, but they went to Chuk for the cybersecurity workshop. I still think we need a lot more technical expertise going forward. I know we always, and this is such a moving, changing field that we need people up on top of their game all the time. Imagine us in here and our oldest person in here. Imagine when you're talking and trying to explain this to us, that's how low tech and analog and behind we are. So I'm interested to see what is your proposal regarding private-public partnership, right? Because those are where the experts are. For us at the government level, we kind of have somebody just there, but usually you want to get somebody to come in on a contract, and if they can't, that's usually where the expertise is in the private sector, because they're doing the R&D. So I have those were just a couple just to throw out there, and if Minaru or somebody can help us. So, well.
Thank you, Senator. At the moment, we currently have international initiatives with Japan, the Japan MIC, Ministry of Interior and Communications. Every 6 months, we send 2 to 3 IT professionals from the FSM, state governments, national governments, for incident response, cybersecurity incident response training. every 6 months we send 2 or 3. As you are aware, we at the JCM we had our line of efforts proposed with the FBI, CISA. CISA is Cybersecurity and Information Security Agency of the U.S. We're currently working our way to building up local capacity. We're not there yet. We're not where we want to be yet, but we're trying to do that. I think you mentioned that porn or the cybercrime bill will address that. Currently, for instance, the ransomware attack that affected all 4 hospitals, not just yet, all 4 hospitals and the FSM Department of Health. When we investigated, all we could charge them with is plain theft because we don't have any cybercrime to charge the perpetrators with. So again, if hopefully when we get the cybercrime and cybersecurity or personal data protection bill and e-transactions, would be more better equipped. I forget what was the third one again? Oh, okay. Our DOJ, our bureau, the Cybersecurity and Intelligence Bureau, we currently provide cybersecurity and intelligence support to, I believe it would be investigations. And so similarly, when the IP independent prosecutor asked for the similar support, we'd extend the same cybercrime, cybersecurity support, just as we do with investigations. Sorry if I'm confusing.
Elaborate just a little bit. So the independent prosecutor, he's not tasked with enforcing cybersecurity bills. He's mostly tasked with the investigation of crimes dealing with money, misuse of government funds, or any crimes that are committed by government officials. So as far as the Cybersecurity Act, this bill goes, I don't think he might play a role, and they might help him, investigate. But as far as enforcement of this bill, he has no role in enforcement. And in fact, the enforcement of this bill does have criminal penalties in it that can be implemented by the AG, which should be noted is at the discretion of the AG to enforce or not enforce. That's something else that the committee had some concerns about.
Yeah, if I may, just a question or a comment that made by Congressman or Chairman Andy Chor. This bill has been entertained at the Congress level for quite a while. What was the intention then that it was not passed? Knowing the fact that we're moving forward with all this banking, banking and all, and it seems like we're slowing things down. Anybody read the journal from the previous Congress as to what was the intent?
I could answer that question. I was involved in the previous bills. I was with Congress, not as LC, but as a staff attorney. The previous version of this bill, they were all together. So we had like a 200-page bill, and they went across a number of different jurisdictions. And so we were working with them to kind of make it simpler and break it down so that certain parts of it might be able to pass before other parts. And so previously it was just too comprehensive, and there were parts that were very problematic. What they've done in this bill, I think last Congress, they kind of separated it and in an effort to like get some of the parts moving if the other parts needed worked on, and that's where we're at today.
Any more comments on this? Go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker, and good morning to all, to everyone. I just have a question or two that if it could be clarified. You said someone mentioned that an outside entity might be used for the work that needs to be done in cybersecurity. And I guess that would be that's a lot of information that an outside entity would have access to or control over. So I don't know. It's just something that a statement that was made that I caught on, and it just I was concerned because there's I don't know but you hear things about your social security getting people getting access to you, getting hold of your social security number, your birth date, and then just with those two they can access all your banking information and stuff like that. So, and this is a new territory for all of us. So, and I'm sure that all of your technical people are well aware of all of these concerns, and that will take those things into consideration. But I guess because this is so comprehensive, and he had mentioned that it's some of these things, this bill has been separated where some is going to go forward and then some is going to be reviewed at a later date. Which part of these bills is the committee looking to implement first or make it a priority, and which part is going to come at a later time, and why would that be?
On the first issue of maybe third parties getting involved, right now there are no laws in place. Third parties may be involved, but there's nothing regulating them. If, for example, this first bill we're discussing, this is to create that group, that entity that will have different roles in either creating laws or giving technical advice. Um, and going to your second question, I would think that would be one of the first bills to look at, and then the crimes they're going to enforce, and then the kind of data they can protect, and how to safeguard those things. So they have to kind of go hand in hand. Unfortunately, they were split because it was too technical in previous Congresses to really dissect. But they all complement each part of the whole cybersecurity law. But in terms of granting access to third parties, with this laws passed, my understanding, and TCNI, DOJ can correct me, is now this entity, CERT, will have the capability to legally contract somebody else. Those illegal third parties that may have access to data or do other cyber crimes, there are no laws in place now to regulate them or to even go after them. And the next bill is on the cyber crimes. And if there's no more discussion on the creating the framework, the infrastructure, then we can go on. Go ahead.
I see we're trying to fit this under TCNI and DOJ, but a lot of our stuff is modeled on the U.S. Model for government, how we've established our national and state. And I see that for the U.S. at one point, especially when there was a domestic attack, they created Homeland Security. Are we just piecemealing this, or do we need to really think out of the box and create its own branch, or not branch, but division or department to deal strictly, because TCNI is telecommunications, just enabling that to happen in the country and regulating that. But when we go to something like this, it's a whole other field. Um, but they do need communication with you guys, with TCNI and with DOJ. But the enforcement and all of these things, maybe prosecution goes to DOJ. But the enforcement is it's all a whole other animal. Separate. Like we had to create DECOM because we saw the need for that with the global warming and all the other issues. This, as we do the defense side project here in Yap, there was a pattern there. Obviously, the ransomware came after we had signed the OCL. Just like after Palau signed their OCL, they had two attacks, probably state sponsored. I'm just saying that out loud, but there are patterns there. Do we have somebody strictly, that's it, that's their job? Or is this just piecemealing, like, is that enough? Until we get something bigger, then we start thinking about this. Just throwing that out there.
Thank you very much, Chairman Rafael, for your important question. And I believe as we grow this responsibility, and we will eventually have to create an agency that just addresses that. This sector is one that is requires a lot of money. The expertise is expensive. So we thought we'd start with what we have, a joint effort by both TCNI and DOJ. We do have international funding to support, and of course, World Bank is what we is the main funding source. But in the region, there's been a lot of cyber attacks in many Pacific countries, so there's a lot of support that has come in from both the U.S., Japan, and Australia in this area of cybersecurity. So we hope, just like the law, that we would evolve and perfect it. Because right now, you've rightly stated, we're taking it based on best practices from different countries, and then really modeling it based on context of our area, and then we hope to perfect it as we move it forward. But we need to start somewhere to protect what we have at the moment. But I think eventually, you've rightly said it, we will really need to have, as this grows, we will need to have the expertise full time on this effort. Thank you, Chair. You want to add?
Sure. I do have a comment in regard pertaining to what you said, and to what Senator Congressman Chora said. And because the bottom line is, again, we're all talking about money, how much this is going to cost. And information is, I think we can all agree, is invaluable. You cannot put a price tag on that, and price tag is something that we're constantly turning over and looking at it every time. But what I'm trying to say is, we should not let the cost of this be an obstacle or a basis for us to not pay for what we need to have done, whether we can afford it or not. And I guess that's something that your technical people will look at and consider in DOJ, because this is information of all of our citizens, important information. And let's say if we hire an outside party to do that work, we give them the information for them to do whatever they need to do, and in the event that they go bankrupt, what then? What happens to that information? Or they merge with another company, a larger company, then what? What happens to our information? How is it going to be handled? So I know that we're looking at we're starting slow, and we're looking at similar scenarios of other countries that are in the similar size and situation as us in the FSM that we can learn from. But at the same time, we should not cut cost to save money especially when we're trying to protect information, because it would, I don't know, it would be painful. And, when we get to that point, and then, the person we hired to do the work goes bankrupt, and then what happens? Because, I don't know, we didn't do our due diligence, those kind of things. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you. Can I just respond quickly? And thank you, Madam, for raising the important issue of money, really. I mean, creating positions we have our own challenges with that, trying to get money to fund just opening up of one position. So we're starting by tapping into expertise that exists both at the national and state level. Every department pretty much has an IT expert that supports that department. So we're working with all the IT experts, and the cybersecurity symposiums are part of that effort to bring everybody together and talk about solutions that we can work together on. But you're right. I think money should not discourage us from what we should do. Nevertheless, we need to take steps to secure that money. And in the meantime, we need to put in the appropriate laws and expertise to support our efforts until we can fund people full time for those positions. Thank you.
The issue of information security and national sovereignty keeps coming up, so I'd like to share a bit. Recently, we drafted the information classification scheme for the FSM. It has the most sensitive, classified, restricted, internal, and public information. We're hoping to work with that while we work with our foreign partners, like the US in supporting our cybersecurity, FSM cybersecurity. There's this law the US recently passed, the US Cloud Act. US Cloud Act. It gives authority to all US government agencies over Microsoft, Google, all the US cloud service providers. So we're trying to work with US, but at the same time safeguard our own information security. We can share a copy of the draft information security classification scheme. I apologize for not sharing beforehand.
If no other comments, we'll move to cybercrimes. I think a lot of these issues about data and other aspects of the bill will keep coming up. One of the challenges that we must understand here in all of these bills is none of these bills is trying to regulate all of the companies. Most of it are U.S. companies that we have access to, that takes data from all of us on a daily basis. The email systems, the social media platforms, none of those are created by the FSM or regulated by the FSM. I don't think these laws are trying to address those. So we still have a long way to go is what I'm trying to get at. The second bill is, I believe, Congressional Bill number 24-1515, and this is the Cybercrimes Act. This bill is proposing to update the FSM National Criminal Code to put in laws to deter, detect, and prosecute cyber offenses in line with global standards. Basically, if you steal someone's identity in YAP using their driver license, claiming to be them, forging a check, whatever, that's a state crime. But if the same activity is done at the online digitally, um, now if this law pass, it becomes a national crime. So these is another reason why the committee want to take this to the states, because these crimes, which are already existent at the state, are now going to be cyber crimes just because they're done in the cyber world, and national government has jurisdiction over telecommunication. Other concerns that the committee had raised during discussion of this bill has to do with our the being practical on who we are as a people. There are islands in the state of Yap that have recently just have access to the internet, and the things that they are posting online, some of which may be criminal after these bills pass, depending on the age of the individual and the type of photo and how exposed their body may be. And we have traditional dances and other things that we are not regulating right now, and what we can post online for the public to see. Um, so there are aspects of this cybercrime law that affects the states and State Crimes Act, and so again we can discuss it here, but we're looking forward to your comments on who do you want. I think the intent of the bill is to go after these cyber criminals. But where are these cyber criminals? Most of them are probably outside, giving the national government probably the capability to go after them wherever they are in the world. I don't know that they can really track them down and bring them in for prosecution. But then our own people, who are just recently, in the last year alone, having access to devices, connecting them to the internet for the first time, might, because of not knowing any better, do something, and the next thing they know is they have to spend 5 years in jail and uh, pay $1 for every picture they post or something like that. But those are some of the penalties. Not as I explained, but there are penalties for these crimes, and so that's why we're trying to get your thoughts at the state level, whether these are going to be national crimes or these should be state crimes. And of course, there are jurisdictions between our national and state governments, but we've decentralized a lot of things, including foreign investment, giving it to the state for practical reasons that are fitting to the state needs. So this is one of those areas that we need to discuss and figure out who best to enforce these laws, or should we continue in a joint effort in enforcing them.
Thank you, Chairman Brock. Any question? Go ahead, Chairman Mafal.
Kumar, Speaker, and thank you, Chairman Chor. We come down to the issue of sovereignty, but at the same time, how do we connect to the outside world if the bad actor is outside the state of YAP? And how do we deal with that? And I see it seems like we're not quite sure. Like if I look on page 12, where I'm seeing the punishments, maximum of 5 years, maximum fine of 5,000 or both. If it's a corporation, company, commercial enterprise, it goes up to maximum fine increase to 20,000. if I think for all four states, we've had in the past through mail scams, snail mail, things like the Nigerian scam happened a long time before the internet came along. And that was something that even if we had these laws, I don't know how well we could have prosecuted somebody. But if we could catch somebody, I think some of these fines of 5,000 might be even too small. Maybe that's for our own internal. If somebody's doing that here, because we recognize that we're at a different salaries pay level. But for the outsiders, maybe some kind of changes should be done here regarding that. Or if it's an actual active corporation being caught for misusing your data or something, like 20,000 is nothing. Some of these comments here. Now, I want to use an example of something that happened to us recently here in YAP and try to extrapolate how that would fit into here. We had, I understand, we had a resident of YAP caught sneaking in fentanyl through the mail service, post office. And because it was coming into the post office, it was a national crime, and they did the prosecution for the 2,000 pieces of fentanyl that was found in the state of Yap. Now, and when that happened, we were like, okay, let the national do it. And according to the investigation, this was not the first time. According to his own testimony, this is the second time he has brought in fentanyl, shared it around Yap, and maybe even Yap was not the final destination. But while I was in Pohnpei with you guys for the JCM, I learned that the judgment had come down, and the judgment was $2,000 fine plus house arrest. The gentleman in question is living at where he works. And secondly, that's $2,000. That's like $1 per pill. For business people, that's nothing. So in that instance, for something like that, where we don't want that kind of drug on Yap, we would have appreciated if we were given more. We don't want to do double jeopardy, obviously, but we would want to have had more power here at the state level for our traditional chiefs to be involved, because they keep the community standards and things in place to where from them there could have been a movement towards PNG, persona non grata, removing this person, even the family from YAP, because we want to make an example out of them that this doesn't happen to us in the future at all. $2,000 is nothing for somebody who has a business. And and this is not the first time, this is the second time. So maybe it's even less than $1 per pill. It's maybe 10 cents, I don't know, per pill, how that turned out. And so even that one we're still not happy with, and we're gonna have some talks with our leadership on how we move forward with that one. But in those cases, we might wanna give the state more power, to where if we need to go to the outside to prosecute somebody outside our border, then we come to national for that. But give us the power to how we prosecute this based on what our needs and our issues are here at the state level. So, tomorrow.
To Senator Mafal, those comments are what the committee is looking for, and we're taking notes of them, and we will continue to share them with the other state legislatures going forward. Some years ago, this was the issue in the FSM Constitution, where major crimes was a national thing. But there was that referendum that amended the FSM Constitution to give a lot of these crimes and enforcement of crimes to the state. And so national crimes have shrinked in the past 2 decades or so, limiting it to certain authorities within the national jurisdiction. But a lot of the crimes are now with the state. And here we're trying to add to the national crimes, and that's why we thought the committee thought to get the leaderships and the people's perspective from the state, whether they want to continue with this or have something, as Senator Mafal shared, that of course for outside criminals, we definitely need the national government, but we don't want to be punishing our own citizens unintentionally just because they have access to a cell phone for the first time and posted something online that they shouldn't post online. And if that is the way to go, and with the comments that we'll be getting, we need the state policymakers to also step up and put in these laws in place to help the national effort in trying to address cybersecurity. The division that will, under this law, the division that will enforce these laws, and again, in the committee hearings, the question of cost came up. How many experts do we need to be monitoring, computers across the FSM 24/7 for any of this crime? Middle of the night, you experience a cyber crime. Who do you call at the middle of the night for these things? So again, there's that question of cost going forward, and that's the other issue. If the state is to consider giving this cyber crimes, giving the state more power, it's also probably an issue that the state would have to consider. But that division is the division of cybersecurity on the Department of Justice, who will be responsible for enforcing most of the cyber crimes. And the list is extensive, from data, stealing data online, to distribution, solicitation of child pornography, cyber harassment, cyber stalking. There's a lot of these cyber crimes because it's done online. Now it becomes national crime if this bill passes. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question regarding the previous point brought up by Senator Lamar on the third parties. Would it be a cyber crime if a foreign government gets data on our convicted felons here in YAP? We've experienced problems in the past where citizens have problem traveling because of leaked or shared or distributed data to foreign governments. Thank you.
I think this law, if passed, will address that, but I'll leave it to the lawyers to argue that position. But I think state laws also prohibit the unauthorized or unlawful removal of any item. So if that could be proven, then that is probably only now, without these laws, will have to be regulated and enforced at the state level, in that it was unlawfully or unpermitted, without permission. They took all of this protected data. That's stealing, theft. But for most of these cyber crimes, I think the important thing is evidence. And this is where technical experts of both TCNI and DOJ and all the foreign assistance that we may be getting, it's more than vehicles and ammunition. It's a lot of software and probably a lot of skills involved in trying to monitor and detect and prove that this is where and who did this crime.
Thank you so much. Just to also help with the explanation. So my colleague Minoru mentioned the data classification schema that the national government is looking to put in place. So basically classifying the government's data, what is intended for public, what should not be public, what is sensitive, what is confidential, right? And so if we classify those data as that it should not be shared or it should not be public, and yet somebody accesses it, as the chairman mentioned, unauthorized, unlawfully, then I would think that it would be violating our laws. I was going to talk about something you mentioned. Now I forgot. But yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Good morning to all of you. As I go through the list of 24-15, I saw cyber harassment. Does that address cyberbullying? Because the reason I ask is a couple of years back, high school student, one of them attempted suicide, and nobody was charged. So I hope to address on this. And the idea of who will be implementing national or state, I think there will become a time that the whole nation, the five government will need to come together to revisit and review whether we need to make amendments or we keep it as it is, but at least it's a start. And then we will know how much will it cost for it to be, to have the wheel moving forward. Thank you.
Yeah, it looks like on page, I don't know if you have a bill in front of me, on page 26, it defines cyber harassment. This was obviously drafted by the DOJ. I had nothing to do with this. So I don't know if they're intending for this to incorporate cyberbullying as well, but I think it could potentially, depending on what happened. And like you guys, it's been mentioned before, I'm sure you have harassment laws at the state level that could address this as well, but this would allow the national government to enforce it by the parameters that's written below. I don't know if that's something you guys would have looked at.
This just brings up to me, because a lot of these types of crimes have both an in-person component and an online component. So now by doing this, you have the national prosecution with the cyber component, and then presumably you'll still have the local component. And how will that work in terms of coordination? Or is there going to be some idea that some of these crimes will altogether be swept up and become, there'll be cyber crimes, but also stalking or some of these in-person things would be national crimes as well. So how is that going to work for coordinating the total prosecution of this? Stalking, bullying, harassment.
Thank you, Senator, for bringing that up. At the moment, we have ongoing investigations on cyber harassment, impersonating government officials that we're currently working with the FBI on. So I think
Those refer to your division from the states without any cyber crime now at the national level for your division to be investigating them.
fortunately, Facebook has very strict policies against cyber harassment. So that's currently what we're using now. Most of the incidents are on Facebook. So
Sorry, this is a side question. I'm just curious, because I think what Senator Chor was getting at is how are you able to investigate these crimes without any crime to investigate on the books? We haven't passed anything. And the states haven't mandated the authority to investigate these crimes to DOJ. So I'm just curious how DOJ is able to move ahead with an investigation with apparently the FBI.
FBI and Facebook has, they call it a law enforcement response team. So, for instance, there was a case, without revealing specifics, two congressmen in Chuk reported a person threatening their lives, and vandalizing their property. We went to Facebook. Within minutes, Facebook removed the posts. So we weren't able to uh, prosecute, but we at least mitigated the harm that the threats on Facebook.
Chairman, I have a quick question on the forgery and fraud things we were talking about here. Earlier you mentioned our dances. Um, can we use this to be a form of copyright infringement when we see, like for us here in the app, we have dances that are unique to us, but then if it's being copied and used elsewhere, would that be or we need to actually have specific laws on copyright intellectual, but that's community level knowledge, not individual knowledge and skills that's being stolen or duplicated elsewhere without permission or remuneration for the people who have that knowledge. That's a legal question.
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, you could have cultural rights that can be protected. I don't know that this would incorporate that or not. Like I said, this is a bill from the DOJ. I'd expect them to have considered that when they did this, but I can't answer that.
So could we maybe at some point propose putting that in, since you guys are our eyes to the outside world and our voice and our hands to the outside world, to perhaps put something in here regarding a blatant use of our traditional knowledge and skills, and how would we go about recovering something for people using that without permission?
Definitely well noted. And I believe the FSM recently became a member of this international organization for copyrights and other indigenous knowledge, trying to protect them at the UN level. And I believe the Department of R&D is taking lead on that. And we'll definitely discuss these points with them on how we could probably accommodate it in the bill, be it that this protected intellectual property are transmitted digitally, that they also be criminalized somehow. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker and Mr. Chair, I think what's becoming obvious in our discussions is that if we don't label it a crime, it's not a crime. So there's a need for us to start somewhere, and then we can continue to add or subtract to the list as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. And go ahead, Acting Governor.
I'm concerned about the definition of pornography in the bill. Would that make our YAP Day kind of like a crime? Yeah, as you know, we have some dances here that's a kind of we celebrate our sexuality. Thank you.
I hate to sound like a broken record, but this is a DOJ bill. I'm not sure what they were thinking when they drafted this or their intent of it. Typically in the United States, it would not be, because it has to have what they call a prurient interest sparked by the depiction of the pictures. So like if you look at National Geographic and you see people in Africa not wearing, women not wearing shirts or whatever, that's not pornography, and that's never been pornography because it doesn't have what they call a prurient interest. I think it would fall under something like that, at least under U.S. law. Like I said, I don't know the intent of DOJ when they were drafting this. I would imagine they had the same intent, but I can't speak to what they did when they drafted this bill.
And a position from YAP, especially the leadership in consultation with the chiefs. Any comments on if you want this criminalized, if you want the definition to include or not criminalize it to the committee would be really helpful, as we don't want the national government to be deciding what is an okay picture for YAP to show the world and what is not.
At least in like the on page 6, the definition of pornography there, maybe include something to the extent that if it's in a cultural context, like dance or something, maybe it's a norm there in the case. Otherwise, yeah, what acting governor said is we'll have our we come to what do you call that, the expo, and then you guys arrest your peace delegation who were in the dance, the men's dance, standing dance, because it fits this definition.
That's divine movements.
That's our Cyber Crimes Act. If no other questions, we'll move on. The next bill is the Data Protection Act. This is the Congressional Bill number 24-17. This bill is basically trying to create a national framework to protect personal data handled by the national government and its national agencies. This law does not tell the states the type of data that it should protect or safeguard. Data from your utility corporation or your state hospital, as Madam Chair earlier talked about, I believe are not covered under this law. This law is appointing the Division of Statistics under the Department of R&D to be that entity to regulate the type of data and how they safe keep those data at the national government level. Again, this is a bill that, if going forward, it cannot just be regulated by the national government, because a lot of the other data, whether it's paper, hard copies, or electronic copies of sensitive personal data, no laws now, I understand, are protecting this data. Data that the state may not want to have the national government access to. Data that each state may want to have the right to regulate. Those are not here. And if such data protection are needed, it would be state laws. But we need to coordinate, again, with the first bill we discussed, on how to ensure this data is protected outside of the FSM. Whether you're protecting it internally or using other third-party cloud services or whatever to keep this data, and in case of a breach, how does the state coordinate with the national? What are the roles of the different offices that may be involved? This bill, for now, it's only authorizing the Division of Statistics. Again, one of the questions to the division is, how capable are you now? If you cannot produce the census as required by law every 10 years, how can you ensure safeguarding the data of this that as collected by the nation? And it may mean more manpower, more training, but that if that's the way to go in this digital world, then this is what this bill is proposing. But the national, at least the J&Go committee, is mindful that there are data, such as data on your residents' medical records, or even state criminal records, as the acting governor pointed out, or other personal data that businesses and other state-owned companies in the state have access to. Your social security, your date of birth, all of this information. Right now, there's no laws to protect those, and who's responsible to ensure their protection. Yeah, maybe TC and I, maybe at least maybe explain how this bill fits into your overall project, um, and why it's important.
Thank you so much, Chair. So the intention is, as the chairman mentioned, and we can probably, to make it easier, maybe go through some examples. On a daily basis, the national government, for example, collects data on citizens. You go to the hospital, you have to provide your name, or you come into the airport, you have to give your passport, and the immigration has to collect your information. And as we've heard, and from my experience attending several R&D conferences, one of the main challenge across all the sectors, not only government, is access to data. So we know that the data being collected has to be accessed by several entities. For example, tourism wants to know who comes in and where they come from, for example. Hotels would like to know this as well. Businesses would like to know. At the same time, customs would like to know, etc., etc. And so the intention is, how do we enable that sharing of data between the relevant entities, whether it's government, private, while not jeopardizing the citizens or the person's private information, right? I may be okay with my data being shared, when I came into YAP, where I'm staying, but not my name, certainly not my date of birth, and other things of that nature. And so that's the idea behind the bill, is to enable that sharing of data while safeguarding the person's identifiable, information, anonymizing it, right? And so that's why we had chosen, or we recommend that R&D Statistics Division specifically be the custodian of this bill, because when we look throughout the national government, and maybe even in the state government, they are the ones that most understand what data is and how do you collect it properly, how do you store it properly, how do you transfer it properly, and how long do you retain certain data. So they understand those principles because that is part of their work that they do on a daily basis. So as one of the reasons, when we look around the capability, so it's really the idea is that they set the standards for how each department must handle the data, and then they help them to comply. They teach them how to use, right? But the idea is not to R&D to be a police of those entities, but to help them be consistent with standards. Of course, when there's a crime, DOJ comes in when there's, of course, evidence that there's. So that's the idea behind the data protection, is ensure sharing of data is possible, but in a safe manner. Thank you.
Yeah, I just have a comment. I don't know whether it will relate to the bill or not, but I'm just going to throw it out. Speaking of data sharing, I, I totally agree with the chairman. You know, the national government might create a law, and we don't have the capability and the capacity to implement, most especially our statistic office, national statistic. But my concern here is the couple years back, some champion here in YAP went ahead and shared criminal records of YAPI citizen to someone at the national government, and somehow that information were shared with the U.S. Embassy. It was then submitted to Custom and Border Patrol, and now FSM citizens who have criminal records are having hard time entering U.S. jurisdiction. So these are local crimes that they commit, not federal law. But we have seen the challenge with this information that has been shared. So I hope when state information is being shared with the national, somebody somewhere at the national government are vetting those information, whether it needs to be input into the portal or needs to be sent back. Because these are state internal affairs and information that needs to be sitting at the state level. Because we might have many champions here. Oh, these can be shared. But you know, the implication of it might be, you know, biting us in the future. That's the concern I have with this.
Mr. Speaker and Chairman, thank you for your comments. And I think that is the intent of this bill, is to protect that data. I think one of the key issues is anonymizing the data. If you recall from the last R&D conference here that was held here in YAP, the Statistics Office gave a presentation, and the challenge that they have in sharing information with each department. Because each department, when they collect the data, they're responsible to protect that data and cannot share it easily to even another government entity. But we need to allow that information to be shared but anonymized. So if you look at it from the Statistics Office, one of the requests they've made to us, if we can help them in terms of doing census, so that every 10 years they don't have to go through an expensive exercise of doing a census nationwide, but to look at how we can help them connect with the relevant offices at both national and state, the hospitals, the court system. So when you talk about counting people, their data can increase every time a child is born, or that data can decrease every time somebody passes away, but not necessarily to share more detailed information on that individual. And same thing in terms of to help with the economic indicators that our policymakers need in terms of taxes and things like that, to be able to share the information without identifying the business owner, but to protect all that data for really the needs of our policymakers. So it enables them to make decisions based on information that is needed. So coming back to the issue of information that is leaked, that's what we want to protect, so that it is not leaked. I mean, the concerns you've raised are valid throughout. I mean, same concerns are raised in every state about crimes that are that prohibit your entry into the U.S. Crimes that we may consider as misdemeanors, but maybe in the U.S. it's more serious. And so it makes it difficult when they look at us entering. I mean, I know somebody, for example, a young lady in Bombay who had a speeding ticket, and she just forgot to go to court to settle it, and it became a more serious crime. And then all of a sudden, every time she enters the U.S., she's pulled aside to explain, right? So that, I mean, we're not trying to make it easier for others to access our information, but we're trying to protect the data so that those kind of information don't go easily to those that shouldn't get it. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks. I'd just like to raise a point here on this bill. It does have a right to action if your data is misused or given out against what this bill has put in place for the agency that did leak the data. But the remedies here that are listed in the private action do not include compensation for anything financial that would have happened to you. So I don't know if that's something you would think about. So, like, for instance, if you were boarding a plane and you were pulled to the side and told you can't leave, but you paid for the ticket, the government may be able to correct the data. They maybe do a number of things. As it allows the court to issue a number of remedies that would allow them to remedy that data leak, but you would not be compensated for anything that you lost due to that. And it's listed here. So I don't know if that's something that you would want to think about this bill as well. You do have a right, yes. And that's what I'm saying. On page 12 of this bill, you have a right of action to prosecute the agency that did leak the information. But you don't have any right for any compensation for it. So all they can do, I mean, what they can do is they can, they could, well, basically they could issue a letter of apology, correct the data, do all the things that they could do just short of, compensating you financially.
Yeah, so those are some areas that we will look in. We're creating an entity to collect data. If you look on page 2, one of the intent of this bill is to promote public confidence and trust in the collection, use, storage, processing, disclosure, and transfer of personal data of natural persons in the FSM. But if there's a violation of that confidence and that trust from the very government that is responsible, there's no teeth to go after the agency. And I think that's what the LC is trying to point out, and we've taken note of that. I think we should put our government offices and responsible employees of the government to be responsible in protecting the people's personal information that they may be taking. Go ahead.
2 weeks ago, a team from our TCNI and DOJ conducted what they call the CII assessment, critical information infrastructure. We identified the first 4 institutions: Department of Health, Bank of FSM, FSMTC, and TCNI, Transportation and Communications. The idea is to make sure that the CII, the critical information infrastructure operators or institutions, operate in accordance with the personal data protection anticipated legislations. So I think that kind of ties in with the personal. I know it's cybersecurity, but we're again trying to safeguard our personal information and critical information. Thank you.
And some entities like the bank, they have other regulations to go by, like the banks have FDIC. Our hospital probably have a patient doctor privilege. Same with attorney clients. Certain personal data are protected in that way, but overall, the people's data are not there's no laws to protect them. There's no agencies to protect them. And again, this bill is just to those national offices that collects data. What kind of data can they collect, and who's going to be responsible for safeguarding them? But there are entities in the state. One, for example, here in Yap, a financial institution that is not regulated by the state nor the national government, and they are collecting personal data on people. And it's not on the national government to come and regulate this data. The same with our hospital, our utility corporation, and other money lenders that we may have, and the kind of information that they're collecting on our citizens. So there is a need that if this bill goes through, even at the state level, to see what kind of data protection laws the state can pass that are in line with this national law, so they don't conflict in the type of information that we can share.
If Yap State was to pass a mandate, a financial disclosure law, especially for people who are running for office, like if and if these bills were to pass, would that be a violation? Would that violate any of these? Be a violation of any of these bills? If Yap State was to pass a law in kind of disclosure, any kind of disclosure for running candidates?
No, I'm not really sure what I mean, are you saying if Yap State was to pass a law that required candidates to disclose all their finances, would that be in violation of some one of these cyber bills? I can't speak to that. I don't know for sure, because these bills are very, like I said, very comprehensive. I wouldn't imagine if that, I mean, generally speaking, I would think of, a financial disclosure bill would not violate any of these cyber bills, but I don't know the particulars of each of these bills, so I can't speak to it.
Oh, I have a question. So let's say the legislature here wants to further protect the information of the Yappies, the citizens from Yap. Would they be able to make it illegal for the national government to attain medical records from the Yappies people, or will this law make that not possible?
That's a very interesting question. I have the same question. I don't know the division. I don't know what allows the national government to collect the health records of the states in the first place, but I don't think there's anybody here from DOJ that could answer that question. So that's a very good question. I have the same question.
Can I just contribute a little bit? Thank you. So, as you know, there are already existing means or mechanisms for how data is moved or shared between the national and the state, right? And also, when we think about the collection of information or the collection of data, for example, when we talk about entering the state through the airport, immigration has to collect the data of those people that are coming in, right? Although those are Yap citizens and Yap, residents, but immigration must collect the information. I don't know what I know that the health sector also has data sharing memorandums or agreements between the national and the state. But my understanding is when we looked at these processes, we looked at what is existing now, what is already in place between the national and the state entities, and that's how we base this on. Moving forward, if the states were to decide to restrict something in the future, that would be something that we would look at. But at the moment, we looked at what was already in place, and we just wanted to enable that existing work to be more smoothly using digital technology. That's
The reason I asked the question is previous pandemic, there were people who had their medical records, whether they took a vaccine or not. It was shared to the other departments inside the national government, where I think pensions, retirement pensions, uh, were going to be withheld because of medical records under a different department. That's why I'm just bringing that up. If this bill could probably enhance people's privacy, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to share that we in the National Health Department, they identified officers in charge of data collection or accessibility to the health record of patients. So those in each of the programs, they have those people who can access and who can collect the data and input in their records of their progression. For the in right now, the state hospital, they send information up to the national government these days via electronic or through their computers. So I think this is the time that we can question them on how much information they send up to the national government and how much they don't share with the national government, because some of those information are confidential. Only when they face-to-face sharing, that's when they can disclose some of those information. But that's what I'm asking, how far they share to the national government and how far they can just share it in person at the state level. Thank you.
Should I just have maybe I just need to be this to be clarified, but does these bill, and I haven't gone through these bills to really understand the language and what it's talking about and what it's going to do, but does it identify the, like for like his example, like the Yap State Hospital, will it identify if the Yap State Hospital if the state has a law that identifies Yap State Hospital as the Department of Health Services as the owner, sole owner of all the information of all of its patients, then, and if it decides that it will, upon request from the national health services from the national level, they want the state level to release information to them, and if the state says no, we're not, they have the right to say no. Will this bill take care of that? And not be prosecuted?
No, on page 3, section 104 are the exclusions, and I think it addresses the question. It says that this chapter does not apply in cases in which the collection, use, storage, processing, disclosure, or transfer of personal data is purely interstate in nature or for the purpose of national law enforcement. So if it's needed for national law purposes, they can be included. But again, that's coordination between the Department of Office of Attorney Generals, I would assume. It does not apply to cases for national intelligence or national security purposes. to non-personal data, to data that are publicly available information, those that are lawfully made from government records. So on your question on what records are lawfully open, that's a state, I would think it would be a state control. Um, and lawfully made available by natural person about whom the personal data relates, and that person has not restricted the information to any specific obvious. So again, it protects the individuals and what kind of information they want to disclose, and those information that are lawfully obtained truthfully and in a matter of public concern. So there are some exclusions in there on the type of information and that can be collected, used, and stored by our Division of Statistics.
May I add? So just want to also clarify that this does not change the fact that whoever the offices or the entities that collected data own that data. So the hospitals, whatever data that you collect, you are the owner of that data. Same as the immigration, or when those data that you are still the owner and the custodian, and you get to choose what data you share and what data you don't want to share. Yes, purely between the agreements that you have between you and whatever the entity that you. So that doesn't change that fact. Merely the bill is wanting to facilitate the sharing. If you wanted to share and what data you want to share, then that bill helps to improve the. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Page also, it lists the kind of data and who it applies to. It applies only, this law only will apply to the national government department and agencies that collect, use, store, process, disclose data, or transfer personal data of natural persons in the FSM. Uh, and it does not prohibit the state or require a state to adopt its own personal data protection laws. That may be for interstate activities or for state agencies that collect those data. These are just for the data that the national government collect. Now the question is, what are those data? And unfortunately now, I think all of the states don't have the laws, or the national have the laws. So just because our FSM Health was probably the first to uh, engage a emailing system, now all the state hospitals use mail.fsmhealth.fm. There's a lot of data that's being transferred through those email systems. Why are they doing it? Maybe because there's no law. Does YAP want to move away from having a shared email system that we don't know who controls the server with the FSM Health? Those are decisions that the states would have to uh, come up with. But absent the law, I think the role of our FSM Health is to assist the states and nothing more. And we have the Madam Chair of the health over health, that she can speak to all of those data that currently may be sitting on a server somewhere in Pelakir that most of our citizens don't know about. But this law alone will not protect those data. There are data that the different federal grants recipients here in YAP, in terms of health grants, are required by the grantor or by the implementing national agency to collect. But those are supposed to be non-personal data. The number of alcoholics we have on island, birona chewers, all of those. Somebody has those data somewhere. But anyway, that is that's what the bill is trying to do. And if there's no comments, I think we're going into lunch period. The last two bills are essentially the same. Bill number 24-23 is part of the 4 bills that were transmitted by the executive to Congress. And that's the Electronic Transaction Act. And there's Bill 24-94, which I introduced last session. And it was basically trying to address the same issue here, but shift the regulating part to the relevant departments like R&D and relevant national departments to regulate it as it becomes very technical. The bill is to allow for to create a legal framework for the use of electronic transactions, electronic signatures, and records for public and commercial and non-commercial purposes. So if there's a contract, for example, and the 2 individuals, parties are not in one location, this law would allow for recognize that that electronic signature is valid, is legal. On the laws now, there's nothing preventing this from happening. There's no law that prohibits electronic signature or electronic actions from happening. And these are the 2 proposed bills, one from the executive and the 2494 is what I've introduced recently in trying to move at least this bill forward, or the idea behind this bill forward, the intent of this bill forward, to allow for electronic signatures and electronic transaction, but to be regulated by the Department of R&D. Why the Department of R&D? It's because they, I'll let Yancy explain, but it has to do with the commercial aspect of it.
It's a commerce. It is with commerce, so that's why we put it under R&D. They deal with all the commerce laws.
Right now, if you sign a document electronically and scan it over, or do an electronic signature and send it over to whoever is the recipient, there's no law regulating that, preventing or allowing for it. These 2 bills is trying to put that in place. And why the national government? Again, it has to do with telecommunication, and that is the jurisdiction under TCNI. Assuming that the electronic transaction is between 2 parties that are in 2 different states or locations, but it doesn't prevent also electronic transactioning happening on one end of the island to one of the neighboring islands of Yap.
And I can elaborate a little bit more. If you're wondering, like the 2423 bill was introduced, was presented to us by the executive, and then Chairman Shore, he drafted another bill that would make it much simpler. So what we're doing is just giving all the regulation over to the executive to do, so it's much easier for them if they try to implement this electronic signature bill and something needs changed, they can do it by regulation rather than coming back to Congress and having us tweak each little change they need to make. So that's kind of another insight in behind why our bill is so much shorter and simpler.
If I may, Mr. Speaker, and we do want to thank the chairman for his initiative on trying to simplify the process of something that may be too technical for many of us, and to allow us to move forward in maybe perhaps putting more things into a regulation. Perhaps to also help us understand, with the digital project at the national government, there's an effort to digitize government services, so that for many reasons, to make our work more efficient and more timely, more efficient and easier access to the general public. If I can use some examples that we already experienced when we travel, for example, when you go to Guam, and the use of a QR code for customs, for us to be able to use that process and make it easier for the data to be collected by the border control offices, immigrations, customs, and quarantine. At the same time, we're looking at other services like passport, so that you can apply for a passport electronically. But the challenge there is also really with the transaction of money. And working with the Department of Finance, the FMR right now does not recognize electronic signatures. So the need for us to allow that process also. Right now, if I send in a document that I posted my signature on it to finance, they'll send it back, and this is secretaries on island have him print out and sign and deliver the document. So this is really as part of our effort to. I think you will notice internationally, this is government services are becoming digitized, and we are doing the same. But this would protect that system and allow us to facilitate it. Yeah. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, so in essence, these are the five, 4+1 cybersecurity bills assigned to your Committee of Judiciary and Government Operations, as well as the Committee on R&D and TNC. We're taking out the bills now. Any comments that you may have, we're going to have another discussion with the large body in January and make our recommendations to the different committees and to Congress. We would welcome any comments, positive or against the bills, so that we can know how best to move forward. Again, this is not just, this is one of those new policies that, as Secretary mentioned, in this digital age, we have to change our laws and find what's best for our people in all the states. Especially, YAP remains to be at the forefront of all of this cybersecurity and cybersecurity laws, because it's only within the last year that half of our population are starting to get access to the digital world. Furthermore, the different departments through the digital project and cybersecurity, they continue to hold symposiums and other public awareness to educate our citizens on best practices and safety online. We don't claim to know all the answers, and so we look forward to any feedbacks and comments that you can help the committee with. It used to be that I can pretend to be Senator Vamog and go steal his betel nut. Now, if I do that electronically, it's probably going to be a different crime, where my sickness is my own knowing, and the doctor and probably the whole island. Now the whole world will know what kind of sickness an individual may have. And especially with a very small population, we can talk all about cybersecurity and data protection. But if there's one individual in this room that's searching for women's shoes right now, it's really easy to pinpoint who, because of our small population. And privacy is still very important to our citizens as we get into this digital world. And again, I want to thank you on behalf of the committee and on behalf of Congress and the whole delegation. And we look forward to your comments in writing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chairman Andy Chor and Congresswoman Conman and Secretary and all your staffs. Yes, it is issue. We see things coming up and we need to move forward. But at the same time, we also have so many challenges that we have between the national government and state, that things are not flowing to the level that we all wanted. Sometimes we see areas where the national government is our door to the outside world. And when the national government move to sort of see whether we're eligible to anything or not, the information is needed. And I think this bill 2017, and then it communicates to the state level, and we don't have the law to protect us. But the information is needed to be provided to that outside world to be able to capture whatever benefit that we at the national level think the whole nation would benefit from. An example of that is a human right. Up in this point, we all know that we probably have this population, but 20% of it is person with disability. But all the time, nobody from the national government see how best have we improved that very vulnerable citizen of our nation. It's just a matter of special ed is providing 600 plus to the state of Yap, but we have not seen the progress of that. So we need to really work together, and we thank you for these bills. And I'm sure we all come together. Some of our senators is not on island, and governor is not on island at this point, but we will discuss in the state leadership and try to come up with something to give you. But we need our people to understand this, because we have a small population, but everywhere you go, our kids are, and we need this to be given to all the schools, so they would understand if the law has passed, all these laws have passed, what are their rights and what they can do and what they cannot do. Because sometimes, we adopt the Western way of looking at, if there's a law, everybody should know what's the law is. And we know how limited we are in terms of understanding those things. So with all, we want to really thank you for coming all the way to visit us. At the same time, educate us with the intent of all these laws. And we'll try working with the executive branch and our departments to work closely together and see how best we can coordinate things and send to you. But the very few comments that we made here is something that we have not really, as a state, coming together to discuss it. But we would do that because we all need to work together for our citizens of this nation. So again, thank you all very much for assisting us. Let me give the floor to Vice Speaker Tedro Tunir.
I think, so, no, I just speaker in thanking all of you. It's about time that we embark on something like this. But I'm just curious as how other countries, the more developed countries, are handling this when it comes to prosecution, or are they more successful than? Are they able to stay on top of everything and have a good handle on the enforcement, prosecution, and what have you? Or are they pretty much in the same stages as we are now, not being able to really prosecute any perpetrator, but they have more intricate laws in place, but hard to enforce? I'm just curious. Like, go to these workshops in Japan or other big countries, US. How are they doing? I'm wondering.
We've been going to regional cybersecurity conferences, engagements. We have a matrix of the Pacific Island countries and their cybersecurity readiness. Among 15 countries in the Pacific, we rank either 13 or 14 as the least, one of the least cybersecure countries. But we're hopefully with our laws passed, we can change that. Thank you.
Sorry, I know we're coming to a close here, but I just want to attach myself to the comments made by the good chairman and chair lady. In thank you all for your time and for the important questions and observations that you have shared. With respect to your specific question, Vice Speaker, uh, we are trying to learn from countries who are more advanced in this area. We're looking at best practices across the region. The challenge in this area is as you're creating the safeguards that need to be in place, the criminals are also improving uh, at the same time to undermine the process. So this is an effort that we work with many other countries to protect our nation. We're fortunate to have, as I mentioned earlier, good support from the U.S., Australia, and Japan. There is commitment in the Pacific Island Forum and other regional organizations to support Pacific countries. As you know, many of our islands have faced these bad experiences of hacking. Most recently for the FSM was the health sector. Other countries, Palau, had their information also hacked and shared publicly. PNG, government data was ransomed. They were taken and offered to PNG for a set amount of money to get the information back, and they didn't agree, and they lost a lot of historical data. So the effort here is really to improve our cybersecurity. As I mentioned earlier, that we are improving connectivity throughout the nation. We're giving access to our people in every village, on the main islands, our remote communities in the other islands. But in doing so, we're also giving the outside world access to all those individuals or all those facilities. So hence the need for us to work together to put this in place. Under the digital services, digital project, I mentioned some initiatives that we're trying to put in place for the government. Some of these cannot move forward without having those legislations in place. So we do thank you for the support, and we welcome any suggestions for improvements. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Speaker and Vice Speaker. I just want to take this opportunity to thank everyone for the sharing of information. And for this evening, I'm going to meet a few heads of those programs, federal programs, and for us to understand the program's effectiveness in the upstate, at what challenges they have, and how we can improve the programs, especially for primary health care or the prevention of diseases in YAP. And hopefully we can discuss further on what information they will provide to you on the sharing of information to those outside of our nation, because to CTC or at the grand tours for those programs. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to welcome you guys again and thank you for your coming here and pushing these very good bills. I want to call it good because there's a lot of effort put into it, and we will support you, with the bills. But it'll take us a while to deliberate and talk about which parts we're going to especially emphasize on our communication to you all. Thank you for coming, and yeah, we hope we'll talk some more about this because this is a big issue, and I think it's going to be an ongoing thing in the future to improve this cybersecurity and these various crimes that's happening online. Is the future, and we're here in Yap. We're well known for being the most conservative. We're very traditional and kind of not as high tech as the rest of the world. But we'll try our best to go along with the national government, the direction that we're going, since we have no choice but to engage into this cyber security and technologies. Thank you very much for coming, and have a great time here in Yap.
Kumar Acting Governor, and thank you, Speaker, and everyone. I also want to say thanks to the IT folks from the different departments that have joined us. I think they were part of the symposium, last symposium in Chuk. And the law can only do so much. The national laws can only do so much. The state laws can do so much in this, even this digital age where we're trying to automate everything. Government services will still, hopefully, after if this laws pass, will be improved a little bit. But again, the law can only do so much. Even if we authorize e-signature and the person to do the e-signature is not there, there's no point of this law. So thank you. And again, we're trying to be as practical as we can with the meager resources we have. And you know what laws we really can benefit from. And thank you. You always have a choice. On behalf of Madam Chair and the delegation, I think there's some lunch and refreshment. We got so tied up in the cyber world, we forgot that we need to feed ourselves. Please help yourselves.